Good morning, everyone. This is Leilani Cawthon, your host from the Learning Council. I'm CEO and publisher here of our news media and research organization. We're going to get started with our first speaker here in a minute, and that is Timothy Powers, who's the headmaster at Pinkerton Academy. What we're going to do is have him speak on schooling during COVID-19, turning obstacles into opportunities. And then we're going to be able to ask him questions and talk amongst ourselves. So be ready. I will be able to unmute anyone who raises their hand. So if you notice your admin panel, there's a little place where you can raise your hand, or you can just type in questions or send us a chat, either way. And then the other thing to know right now is that you can look at your handouts that are in your admin panel. One of them is the EduJedi Dictionary, which we're going to do a full workshop on today. Chris McMurray is going to lead that workshop. Lots of really valuable information in there and a new perspective. I think you'll like it. So one of the things to know is to take a break anytime. Keep your browser tab open for the event so you can come back. And then again, ask questions by raising your hand or typing in a question. If we see that you typed in a question, sometimes we'll just type back to you that we'll call on you as soon as there's a break in the conversation, and then we'll unmute you. So I'd like to also thank all of our sponsors for today. We had Scribble sponsor, Bunsey, ACT, Randa, Scholastic, Mobile Mind, Stay Mobile, Hapara, Tales to Go, and No Story. So our first speaker is Timothy Powers. This is our schedule for the day. Lots of time for us to have open discussion with you as well, so get ready for that. Timothy, I'm going to pass you the screen. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Okay, you are now the presenter. Go ahead and share what you want to share.
All right.
Yep, we see it.
See it? Perfect.
Yep,
all
we
right.
see it.
So good morning. My name is Tim Powers. I'm the headmaster at Pinkerton Academy in Derry, New Hampshire. And thank you for being here today and giving me the opportunity to speak. As challenging as these times are, with what we have is for schooling during a pandemic, one approach that we've taken is turning these obstacles into opportunities. You can see that the picture on the screen right now is one of the hearts of our campus. We have the clock towers of Pinkerton Hall, and that's our iconic image is that clock tower. In the back, we have a green space there, one of our quads, and we've added tents to it to create some outdoor classrooms that we're utilizing this fall. So we've looked at different obstacles that we've had and how we can educate our students and create new opportunities with them. So when it came to our approach for this year, we had the task that I think every school district and school across the country is creating a reopening plan that would work for depending upon the phase that we're in. So creating a plan that has three different plans within it. One that would be easy to transition from one plan right to the next, essentially overnight, without having to recreate and change schedules. So what we did is, and this is all on our website, so you're free to go ahead and take a look at it if you'd like, is we had our plan A, plan B, and plan C, which I think very much almost everyone had, which was very similar for us. A plan A was fully open. A plan B was our hybrid plan, where we would be at 50% capacity on a daily basis of in-person learning, and the other 50% would be in remote. And then our plan C is our fully remote learning. So Pinkerton Academy is a 9 to 12 school in Derry, New Hampshire. As I said, we are the school of record for 6 towns in Derry, and 5 other surrounding towns. We are an independent school, but we have contracts with the town, so we operate as the public high school for them. So we have over 3,300 students. We have over 500 employees. So on a daily basis, pre-COVID, we would have nearly 4,000 people on campus regularly when school was in session. So part of our challenge was taking a look at what we do in a normal situation and how are we able to still educate our students, but do it in a safe environment that allows for learning to occur, to meet our academic and social emotional goals for the year, but also do it in a way that we're keeping everyone safe, students, faculty, staff, and visitors when appropriate to campus. So the overall question we had with developing our plans are the plans going to work for students and faculty and staff while maintaining their safety? So we had to take a look at our types of learning, our curriculum, our social emotional learning, and how do they fit within each plan, and create it in a way that would allow us to shift from one to the other if we needed to overnight. So we started off, we voted at the end of July to start off in the hybrid model in our Plan B, and that's still the current model that we're in. At this point in time, we've completed, we're on our 20th day of our school year. So we've got over 10% of the school year completed at this point in time. And learning every day about what it is like to be in the hybrid situation, to how do we educate, how do we work with our students, and what is working well for our students, what's not working well for them, and also what's working well and what's not working well for our faculty and staff. So in the hybrid, we have, like I said, about 50% of our population on campus daily. The other 50% is remote. And then we do have some students that are fully remote, that they have families and them have chosen to not come onto campus at all at this point in time. So when we created our plans and our schedules, we wanted it to be done to allow for that flexibility. So we didn't want to have students that if they changed from remote to in-person, or from in-person to remote, that meant they were going to have to change teachers and in classes. We wanted them to be able to still stay in their classes and maintain the continuous learning that we would have. So we feel that we've created a plan that has allowed for that kind of flexibility. So one of the first things that we had to take a look at and work through are just some of the different things that we had to overcome. And one of the first one is just the mindset, just obstacles, turning obstacles into opportunities. Education is it's a family affair for me. I've grown up in a family of educators, been involved in education my entire life, and some of the strengths of education can also be some of the weaknesses when you're looking at doing some things differently. And change is not something that anyone likes, or a lot of people don't like. So when you have to do some change and make some changes, it's tough just in there and in of itself, and that's an obstacle to get over, and a mindset to change and to work through. So part of it we knew right off the bat is we're going to have some change, so we have some obstacles, but how are we able to turn those into different opportunities and to work on things that we've been working on for the last 5 years in this new setting, and show that even though we're in a new setting, we're still continuing to work on those opportunities and to make them better. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to educate our students. We want them to come to us as freshmen and 4 years later graduate as seniors and go on to the world and take their next step, whether they're going to go on to a 4-year university, a 2-year community college, into the military, or into the workforce, or take a gap year. We want to make sure that we're setting them up so that they have success. So as we looked at what we had to overcome, is we had to look at our on-campus space. We initially, when we went into remote back in March, we were looking at all of our space and what are ways that we could set things up so that we're able to reopen safely when the time came. Our campus, we have a sprawling campus. We're located on, our main campus is about 100 acres, and we have another almost 80 acres just in a town next to us. So on our main campus, we have 25 buildings, 18 of which our classes are in daily, regularly. So we have a campus set up. So looking at the space that we have, how are we able to utilize that to maximize the space that we have, but do it in a manner that's safe? So we had to look at our on-campus space. Then remote learning. From March to the end of last school year was a good test for us about what remote learning was. What were some of the successes with it? What were some of the things that didn't work as well, that we needed to make sure that we worked with our students and our faculty and staff to make sure that we were engaging them in the learning process. When we shifted to remote, the initial thought was it's going to be a couple of weeks, and then it was a month, and then it was through April vacation, then it was through the rest of the academic year. So we learned a lot from that. We learned how it was that we're engaging with students, how are we keeping connected to them, communicating with them so that they knew what was going on while we knew what was going on in their lives, so that they were able to finish out the academic year that they had, whether it was an underclassman and getting ready for their next year, or for the seniors as they graduated and were moving on to the next. And then also looking at our incoming freshman class and how are they prepared and ready to go for this new academic year. And the other part too is also looking at our faculty and staff, with what worked for them in remote learning and what didn't work for them. What were some of the the technology needs that they had, and what are the things that they utilized that worked really well in connecting with the students. So taking those and turning those into the opportunities we had this year to build on it and make those connections with the students, because part of learning in high school is the the core classes and the the elective classes and the graduation requirements that are needed, and we offer over 330 different classes to our students, so there's a lot of unique opportunities for students to take classes. But the other big part of it is the social emotional piece, in the connecting with students, not only building the rapport between the student and the teacher and helping that assist with the learning process, but also for the peers having that social piece amongst their peers and learning that way as well. So we wanted to make sure that we were utilizing the technology and what we learned in remote learning, so that if we started in remote, we had the ability to build those relationships, to work on the social emotional learning, so that way students were able to have success right out of the box. So another thing we looked at was the technology. We utilize Chromebooks. We've been working as a Google school for the last 5+ years. So we had some basis there that allowed us to shift pretty quickly in March. But then we looked at live streaming classes and how are we able to live stream to connect students that are in person and students that are remote, so that way that we had a full class feel, as opposed to just 4 or 5 kids that may be in front of us and then the rest remote on that particular day. Ordering microphones for our faculty so that they had those, so that they didn't get tied down to have to be right in front of their Chromebook or the computer, so that the students could hear them, that they had the ability to be able to walk around the class, to have conversations, and to be able to teach in a manner that is similar to them in the past as well. And then
Timothy?
Yes.
Just quick question for you, going back
Sure.
to kind of where you guys are at right now. So you're hybrid.
We are.
About how many students of the 3,300 or so decided to not come in at all, and what happened with that?
So we have roughly about 325 that chose the fully remote. So the way we built the schedule is whether they were fully remote or they were going to be in the hybrid and come onto campus, they're together in the same class. So in our classes, we have students that are fully remote, and we have students that are in the hybrid and coming to campus.
Okay, so when you're talking about teachers having microphones, so are they live streaming then the class itself, and then pretty much probably almost every teacher has some kid at 1 or 2 that's not there, right?
Correct. Yep. So
Okay.
So we worked with our faculty, and they are live streaming at least portions of their classes, not necessarily the entire class, but they're live streaming portions of it, so that way the students that are engaged, that are there in front of them, and the students that are remote are being engaged in the lessons that are occurring that day. So on a
Okay.
typical day in our class right now, we would have, it could be like today, when I was walking through, and that there was one class that had 5 students in it and another one that had 12, which is 12, 13 is pretty much the maximum to meet that 50% in any of our classes right now. So there could be 5 to 12 in front of them, and then 12 to 5 that are remote on that particular day. So even the students that are, that have chosen that are in the hybrid, that they're coming to campus, we have them in cohorts. So the cohort 1, cohort 2. So today is a cohort 2 day. So all the students that are in cohort 2 are physically on campus, and those in cohort 1 are connecting to campus remotely.
Wow, the logistics of all that just blows my mind.
It was a very busy summer. to go through all that and to build the schedules and to set all that up, so that way we would make sure that, you know, maintaining that 50% piece, but also allowing for the fluidity for students to be on campus and off campus, and that was a challenge, but I think we looked at it as an opportunity to find ways that that made sense and helped. So one of the benefits by doing this is it has in some ways created smaller classes for our faculty and staff that allows them to take advantage of that and to do different things within the class when the students are physically there in front of them.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm done interrupting. Continue.
Okay. So the other big piece for us was, especially with revolving around the social emotional learning, is all of our extracurriculars and athletics. That was a daunting task with what do we do with that, but knowing how important it is for our students to be able to participate in those. When we went remote in March, we lost our spring season for athletics, and our clubs were able to still meet virtually and do things, but it was different. So there was some connection lost there, and it wasn't the same. So we looked at it as how are we able to still offer the extracurriculars and the athletics. We have over 60 clubs that our students can be involved in, and we offer 35 different sports for our student athletes to be able to participate in. So we have a wide variety, but we know that it's also a very challenging thing is how do you offer that in a safe environment during a pandemic that you can be spread in the manner that it is being spread. So as we looked at that, as we had to come up with a decision on that, and we decided that we put some things in place. We changed some parameters and shortened the seasons and changed how we meet and that. But we decided to still offer our extracurriculars and our athletics. So we're offering all of our fall sports. We actually just this past week started playing games against other area schools. So we're going through the process with that, but we felt that as important as math, English, science, social studies, and languages and other classes are to students, that the social emotional piece of participating in extracurriculars and athletics and band and choir and theater are as important for our students as well, especially during this time that they really need that connection. So we work to create a way that we're able to do that, we feel as safe as possible, and monitor it very closely, and work so that the students are able to participate in it, which, knock on wood, is going well so far, and they're engaged and they're happy, and our participation rate is higher than it was a year ago for our fall sports and our extracurriculars at this point, and even trying out for our late fall, early winter play was the highest turnout to try out for that than we've had ever for a non-musical play. So I think that speaks to the need for the social emotional piece for students, that they really craved and they missed that piece, and that's a piece that they're looking for, that connection to help them to grow and to learn. Another big thing that we had to turn from an obstacle into an opportunity was the faculty staff concerns that they had coming in. When this all started and we went remote, there was very little known, and as we know more about the virus and the pandemic, between the PPE and the signage and plexiglass, putting things in place so that faculty staff felt comfortable and they felt safe enough to come back to work to be able to educate our students. And initially, right off the bat, that was a big obstacle that we had to overcome, that we had to make sure that they had that comfort level, because without getting our faculty and staff here, the plans wouldn't work. That we wouldn't have the ability to bring students back in if we didn't have the teachers and support staff in the classrooms and across campus to be able to help educate them. So that was a big obstacle that we've worked with the local health experts, with guidance from state and other health professionals, and with our employees, listening to what their concerns were, to have those conversations with them and to show that we are listening to them and growing and adapting as best as we can to keep them safe, and to present an opportunity for them to come back and to work to educate our students. And throughout all of this, I think one of the biggest things that we've turned into an opportunity is our communication. Um, we we communicated with our with our families. I think as often as most people did. You do it on an as needed basis. Maybe we'd have a monthly newsletter go out. We'd share information through social media, through our website, and that. But through this pandemic, the need for more communication was apparent, and we jumped on it right away, and we communicated multiple times a week to start with, and then went to a Tuesday and Friday. I would send letters from my office, working with my director of communications and sharing the information with families in the community about what was going on, what it was that we were working on. Over the summer, we cut it back to weekly, from week to weekly, and then to bi-weekly as we were progressing through things. To now we're back to weekly communications, and then as needed on other pieces as well. But one thing that we learned and we took advantage of was utilizing the tools that are there and reaching people where they are with communication. We increased our social media presence. We've utilized Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to communicate with the different sections of our community. Whether the students are on certain social media platforms, parents and families are on different ones, and communicating and getting things out there. That was very important for us to be able to get the message out, so that way people understood what it was and that it was coming from us. And video was another big thing that we really dove into to share things with the families and with students and with our employees as well when they were remote, showing them aspects of campus, things that we were working on, what it was that we were progressing towards, what our goals were, and that. So we created a YouTube channel that people can subscribe to and share videos through there with that. Hooksett is one of our 6 sending towns, and we always have a high school Hooksett fair that we attend there for our families as they are looking to make their choices, and that changed this year. So part of we did a video presentation, then had a live Q&A session with a couple of our students that are from Hooksett. And part of it really showcases what it is that sells a school. I could stand up there and I could talk about all the different classes we have, how we operate, the sports, the activities, the theater, talk about these great opportunities and that, but it really gets sold by the students that are living it, and they how they experience it and what it is. So and that came out in that Q&A that we had with the students. And then, just as I said, like that virtual walkthrough, like right now, people can't come onto campus. We're closed to visitors. So there's that sense that, you want to see, your child's classroom, or you want to be able to meet your child's teacher, or you want to be able to see different parts of what it is that is going on. So doing a walkthrough showcases, the parts of campus that we have, and allows people to see it, so that they can feel that they have a sense of what our school is like, what's going on, what are some of the changes. As we talk about changes that we had to make to the cafeteria, that we weren't able to, have our campus, have our CAF set up with, the tables in there and students sitting next to each other, that because of maintaining the social distance of the 6 feet, and needing to have students in desks and rows to keep the safety and the health of them, which was a concern for not only our families with their children, but also for our employees that are working in those environments. We had to put desks in rows and separate them in that. So showing them that, so that they could see it, so they felt a little bit more comfortable coming in, and then utilizing it on the days, the first few days, and sharing what it was like was important there. So communication was a big thing that I think we've done very well with that, and I think it showed us that going forward, it's going to be a huge thing that we need to continue in how we connect with our families and with our faculty and staff and our learners. The size of our school gives us great opportunities, but it also presents a challenge that, with over 500 employees, it's tough to pull together an all-staff meeting. We have a theater that can hold 900, so we have the space for it, but in a setting like this here, we can't get 500 plus employees together in one room, nor should we. So utilizing the technology to have that full staff meeting at the beginning of the year and at various points in that is allowed us to communicate in a different way, that writing in a weekly email that some people read, some people don't read, some people are able to grasp everything out of it, and then just the tone that it's written and tone that it's read can be lost sometimes. So using those communication tools have been very important on so many different levels. Some of the other things, like we talked just a little bit about with the logistics and the organization, scheduling calendars and cohorts, looking at our yearly calendar for the number of days that we have for school and professional development days and early releases. We took a look at that and changed it before the school year started in a very purposeful manner. The state allowed us to take 3 extra days for professional development. We already had 2 days, and then we had a couple of days left over from last year. So we were able to combine some of those and utilize 2 of the 3 state allowed days in subsequent weeks after the first week of classes, so that we were able to see what worked, what didn't work, and then take time and have a professional development day to be able to catch our breath, make adjustments for the in-person and the remote instruction, which I think helped us a bit right away, because coming in right off the bat for all of us, and I think we acknowledged it and shared it with our faculty and staff, and shared it with our communities, that this is all brand new for all of us. So whether it's a first-year teacher, a 10-year teacher, a 15 or 20 or a 40-year teacher, this year is like year one for everyone. The setting that we're in, the manner and the way and the approach, there's so many things that had to change in order for this year to work, that there was a lot of work that needed to go in on so many different levels for this to be any kind of success. And that, so having those days set up in a very purposeful way allowed us to take a look, see what works, adjust, see what works, adjust again as we continue to go. And one thing that we've done is we've even made some changes since we started to tweak a couple of things that we have coming up in October, to add a couple of early releases in that allow for us to be able to connect with our remote learners a little bit more. So we're looking at being a little bit more purposeful and setting aside some time that is just for those students, so that way we're not losing that connection with them. Because one part of being a member of the Pinkerton Academy community is that community piece and the connections that they get from being on campus and having classes together and spending their time. And for our students that are remote, they lose out on that aspect of it. So we don't want to lose them. We want them to still maintain and have that feel of being a member of our community. So we want to make sure that we have that time there. We talked a little bit about like the on-campus space, the learning lunches, mass breaks. We put up those tents that you saw earlier that allowed for us to be able to have outdoor classroom space. So one of the first weeks we had a pretty rainy day, but we still had classes that were outside because they utilized the tent space. So on a daily basis, classes are taking advantage of outdoor space, whether it's under the tent to get a little bit of a break from the sun if it's a warm day, or from the rain on a rainy day, or just to be outside for a portion of their class and the learning that's going to occur, and allow for those mask breaks. Part of our mask policy is that students are wearing masks, and faculty, employees, anyone that comes on campus is wearing masks at all times, inside or outside of buildings, unless they're outside and they're maintaining the 6+ feet of social distance. So when we set the spaces up, we wanted to make sure that we allowed for space for opportunities for those mass breaks. And then the other piece with it is, we have over 3,300 students. So even when we get to that 50% capacity, we look at 1,500 students could be on campus at one point in time. And with a campus setting during our class change time, that's when we notice, how big and how many students are there. So we wanted to make sure that we had hallways and entrances and exits to buildings being one way to direct foot traffic flow throughout campus, to be going in one direction, to just be one more way that we're trying to keep everyone safe with that while they're here on campus. That we didn't want people going both ways down a hallway and then be shoulder to shoulder and causing congestion. That we wanted traffic to flow smoothly in one direction, so that way we're maintaining as much distance as possible and being socially distanced as possible in those situations. You know, the remote learning piece has been a challenge, but it's one where we continue to learn and adapt with the students that we have that are remote, and even on days when students that are not here on campus being remote, how it is that we're working with them and engaging them. And initially we started off, and I think we had a lot of teachers that for very good reasons were creating multiple lesson plans for one lesson, and that was one thing that we didn't want to have happen. We didn't want to, we knew it was going to be extra work and stress and time for our teachers to be able to create lessons in this new manner, but we didn't want them to have to create multiple lessons for replacing one. And as we've gone, I think people have found different ways to be able to make things work and to adjust. And there are times when they have to create a couple lessons because students are in front of them and then students are remote, so it's a little bit different for each. But then there are other times when they're able to create that one lesson for all students regardless of where they are. So working through those pieces has been an obstacle, but being over a month in now at this point, I think we're starting to find some things that are working and share with each other what works and what doesn't work for us, so that we're able to adapt them in our classroom. One of the biggest obstacles right off the bat that presented a challenge for us was going to be transportation. Looking at what some of the requirements were for some of the bus companies as far as the number of students that they could allow on a bus. Initially, the numbers were between 10 and 13 students on a bus. On any given day, we have 40 plus buses that transport our students, and not all of them, but many of them are full with 2 students per seat. So to cut that back to only 10 or 13 on a bus would not have allowed us to be able to offer the transportation for all students. So that was a challenge that, working with the bus companies and different protocols and procedures with that, it got to the point where they were able to offer more seating than just the 13 on a bus. So we're able to get to a point where there are enough opportunities for students to be able to be transported by bus. But the other challenge is we knew that we were going to have families that didn't want their child riding a bus to school, that they either had the means where they could drive to school or they wanted to be able to drop their child off for school. So we looked at what are ways that we can increase student parking. We've had our seniors have been able to park. We added a parking lot a couple of years ago for our juniors to be able to drive to campus. So we had all of our seniors that could get a parking pass, and then we had a lottery for our juniors for the last couple of years. And this year, we looked at what are ways that we can increase student parking from roughly 600 to, we were able to get that number up to about 900, so that way any senior that wanted to drive could drive, any junior that wanted to drive could drive. And then looking at sophomores that are that have their license and have a vehicle could have the opportunity to be able to drive. So looking at that, created ways that we had additional parking for student parking. And then also looking at our parent drop-off. When we had our freshman orientation day, we had over 600 parent drop-offs for our freshman class of roughly 800. So that right off the bat was a large number of parent drop-offs, and we had to make some shifts and changes to our transportation drop-off and traffic flow there, so that way we did not tie up one of the main roads around us for a longer period of time than normal with that. And usually for us, the end of the school day, we look at 40 to 45 school buses. In a typical year, would be a couple hundred parent drop-off or pickups, 400 or 500 student vehicles, and then another 400 faculty staff vehicles at the end of the day leaving campus. And it would take us between 30 and 40 minutes to empty our lots and to get them out. Now with some of the changes that we've made and that our numbers are not all that different for the number of vehicles, but we've been able to cut it down to 15 to 20 minutes based on some different traffic flow patterns and changes, which without this pandemic and some of the things that we had to do, we may not have made those changes, but that was an obstacle that created an opportunity that we're now better partners with our local community and our towns with the traffic flow around our campus at our start and end of school day. So I think it's given us an opportunity there. Other protocol changes and procedures with our start of the year and parents and students in our COVID-19 form, and making them aware of what it is that our expectation is of them, and their expectation can be of us as far as keeping everyone healthy and safe. Having a daily self-monitoring form for everyone. So anyone that comes onto campus has to fill out a daily self-monitoring form. We have one for all of our employees that they fill out, and then we also have one that our students all fill out on the for when they're coming to campus. And I think that's been a lot of work for many offices to track and to work through those. But it also has helped to raise the flag on situations and symptoms that are going on, and having conversations with people and students or employees that stay home because they have something that could possibly be the virus. So it's a way of just, instead of just saying, if you're not feeling well, stay home, because we all know in education, especially with educators, if I'm not feeling well and I get the, whether it's the sniffles or a little cough or something going on, I'm just going to power through it, and I'm going to go to work because I want to be there for my kids, for my students in class. But with the situation we're in, that actually could end up being worse for all of us. So we wanted to make sure that we're setting it up in a way that allows for us to support each other in those situations, and to keep everyone healthy with that. Our health office has done an excellent job with changing procedures and protocols, having an isolation room that any student that shows any symptoms or employee that shows any symptoms, when they come down, they go right to that room and to that area, and they get screened, and then dismissed from there and decisions. So we're able to separate out normal day-to-day things that go to the health office from potentially COVID virus symptoms that need to be kept separate. So we're trying to not cross students or employees or people whenever possible, to keep everyone as safe as possible throughout it. And I think one of the other, I think it's a pretty cool thing that we are offering to our employees is our faculty and staff coverage for those that have young children. So our employees come from all of the different surrounding towns, and we're all in different situations at each town. So each district could choose what they wanted to do. So one town may be fully in, and the next town next door may be in hybrid, and the town next door may be remote. So for us, when we have families that have young children that are in the K-8 school system, if they had the situation where they were remote, or they were hybrid, it presented some childcare concerns for them. They couldn't leave a third grader home by themselves to do remote learning for that day, that they needed to be there with them, or they didn't have a parent or a grandparent or someone else that could watch them, that it was their responsibility. So we looked at that right off the bat, and knew that we had at least a dozen of employees that it could present a challenge for them, that if their child was not going to school on a daily basis, then there was a good chance that they would not be able to come into work. So we looked at it as, well, here's an obstacle. How can we turn that into an opportunity to create something that allows for our employees to come to work? Because they wanted to come in, they wanted to teach their students in their classes, but they also had to worry about their own children and what it was that they could do. So we created what we call the Junior Astro Scholars, where we hired a certified K-8 teacher to come in to oversee this room, where if your child was not in for the day, that they were remote on that day, you could bring your child, and they would go into this classroom space that we had set aside for them, and they would be able to do the remote learning work there for the day, while you, the faculty or staff member, you taught their classes or worked in the office, or whatever their role was here. So we were able to take care of our employees in that way there. So that was one less thing that some of them had to worry about, that we had an opportunity for them to be able to have their children in a safe place, know where they were, and then also be able to get the education that they needed as they're going through their school year. And one big important piece has always been just the limiting of visitors, is trying to keep everyone as safe as possible and try to minimize the number of people coming onto campus, so that way we're not exposing each other to to things and to different situations so that we're able to stay as healthy as possible. We made it to, yesterday was our first positive case for anyone that had been on campus. So we'd made it this far with keeping everyone as safe as possible, and knew that it was bound to happen at some point in time. So we wanted to just make sure that we're doing everything so that we're trying to limit the exposures and the spread of it, so that we're able to keep in-person learning as long as possible during the school year. And I think the last slide I have to talk about is the social emotional needs. And SEL learning has been a buzzword for a few years with students, and tying it into the curriculum and being very proactive with that. But I think SEL learning has been something that's gone on for years, and we're really now just placing an extra emphasis on it because of the need for it. So when we look at our students, and to me, the social emotional needs and learning goes beyond the students. It's also the faculty and staff that have the social emotional needs for working here on a daily basis. So for the students, it's not only adding it into the curriculum and building the rapport in the classrooms, but it's also looking at what are some of the other ways that we're able to do that. Through our school counseling office, different groups that they've set up for students to be able to connect and to talk to a counselor, to a specialist about, or make a connection with other students that may be going through something similar, or just need to make a connection. Being purposeful with our mask breaks, giving that opportunity to step outside, take the mask off for a minute or two, or maybe a little bit longer. Maybe the classroom discussion can go outside and we can have a 15, 20, 30-minute discussion outside as opposed to being inside. Outdoor learning. And you can see the picture here on the screen. That's one of our Latin classes that was outside for a period of time and able to partake in the lesson for the day. They are able to take their mask off and learn and be able to express. And especially when you get to language classes, whether it's Latin class or Spanish or French or our American Sign Language classes, being able to see the students or the teachers' lips as they're speaking and teaching, and that is important. So we want to make sure that we were creating environments and spaces where that outdoor learning could occur, so that way the needs were being met for our students. Because the masks are important and they're there to keep us safe and healthy, but at the end of the day, it's covering up our face, and it's taking away from building that connection and that rapport. So we knew that we had to find ways that we could still keep us safe, keep us healthy, while also creating opportunities for us to be able to connect with each other. And as I mentioned before about the extracurriculars and the athletics for our students, those are vitally important for them, with the social emotional piece. Those students that are involved in the arts and the theater and the band and chorus, that's such a crucial piece to their high school educational experience, just like the same thing for our athletes, our student athletes. So having opportunities that they're able to participate and still be parts of those groups is very important, because we know that in the end of the day, it's going to help them in the classroom and with what it is that they need to learn. But we also want to make sure that we're doing it in a safe manner. And for our faculty and staff, the social emotional piece is critical as well, because if they're not, if we're not addressing their social emotional needs, then it's going to have an effect on the students. So part of what I always look at and try to answer on a daily basis is this good for kids? That's something where every decision that I look to make and work with my team on, and that is just ask at the end of the day, is it good for kids? If the answer is yes, then let's find a way to make it work. If the answer is no, then we got to regroup and go after it. And a lot of times you think, is it good for kids? It comes down to the decisions that are directly affecting them. But it goes beyond that. A decision that's going to affect faculty and staff is going to have an effect on the students. So when we're looking at different things with our faculty and staff, we have to be able to look at what some of the social emotional needs that they have are, because we know that based on the decision that we make, if it affects them negatively, it's going to affect the students negatively. So we have to work and acknowledge what their social emotional needs are, what it is that they're working through. We're all go home at the end of the day and have family and friends and other things that are going on in our lives, and we have to know that we don't know everything that's going on in each other's lives, but there's other things that are going on, and we have to acknowledge that and be able to help them out with that to get them into a good space and a good place so that they're able to come here to work to educate our students. So we did different things like have a live Q&A session during the summer, have meetings throughout the start of the school year with different groups to listen and to hear them out, to explain different things, work on setting up office hours that we're able to meet with individuals or small groups if they would like that, as opposed to that. Communication has been a big thing, and just different ways to communicate with our faculty and staff. I've always tried, since I've been in this role, to communicate with them weekly, with sharing some information with them about what's going on. And it's been even more important being in this pandemic to continue to share things where sometimes it's just a pick-me-up, and sometimes it's an explanation of why we're doing something, and other times it's just an acknowledgement of, yeah, we're all in this here, we're feeling this, and I understand, and we're working, and we hear you, and we want to try to get better with different things. And then the other thing is working with our HR department and our employee assistance program, and putting them in touch with the professionals that they need to. So whether it's a counselor that they need to speak with, or if they need some help or assistance with medical or other things that are going on, putting them in touch with someone that doesn't work for us, so that they have that comfort level that they can go to them, have a conversation, and it's not talking to their employer about it, so that they have the privacy that they need, but they get the assistance that they need with whatever it is that they're going through and working on in their lives. So I think one thing I said to the faculty staff at the beginning of the year is that working at Pinkerton is great, and it's a challenge because it's important, and every day is important. So every day we come in, we have the ability to interact and work with students and with each other. So every day is an important day for each of us. So that's a big challenge and a big obstacle, but I think we look at the different opportunities and we make progress every day. Hopefully that we're getting better and striving to meet that end goal of having our students graduate and take the next step in their lives.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all this out. As you were going through, I was thinking to myself, check. The number of decision points you had to make was like at least 100. Just massive numbers of decisions. So I'm super proud of you. I'd like to have you stay on for a few more minutes. I'm going to take an interlude moment, let you get a drink of water, because you've been talking for 45 minutes. And I'm going to show a video and call on the person that represents that company, and then come back to you. I have a couple questions before you're released back into the wild to run your fabulous school. It's beautiful. So hold on just a second here.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you.
Well, hi, Ryan. So you're representing Bunsey. What an adorable thing that you've done. This is amazing. Tell us about it.
Sure. Well, thank you all, and pleasure to meet you all virtually, and looking forward in the future to meeting all of you in person. And want to start off by saying that I hope that you and all of your loved ones are safe and sound. And I'm truly glad to be a part of this 2-day virtual event, as each school, business, and individual has such a unique experience, as we are all truly living through history. And the topics that we are discussing yesterday and today, it's a global issue. And I'd like to thank all of you for your insights, as we are truly helping shape the educational world for generations to come. And I'm honored to be a part of the Bunsey team, where we are making a major impact across all 50 states and in 187 countries across the globe for over a decade. So Bunsey is not just a simple tool for creating digital stories, lessons, and presentations, but it's an outlet for creative expression. So we make it easy to bring out your students and staff's inner creative genius and technological talent. So our platform utilizes gamification to encourage creativity. We help increase engagements with the entire organization, helping businesses improve their leadership development, engagements, creating interactive presentations, engaging lessons and projects. And as we heard this morning, that social and emotional learning, it's crucial, it's critical, and it's very important to us. And we have tons of functionalities built in to help achieve new heights for students and for faculty. And educators only need to learn one tool with Buncee, thanks to App Smashes. We're integrated with Microsoft Teams, OneNote, Immersive Reader, Google Classroom, as we heard a lot about, and popular apps like Wakelet, Flipgrid, Seesaw, and we're actively being utilized by learners of all levels in a wide range of languages. And on the topic of compliance, Buncee is COPA and FERPA compliant, and we're a signatory of the Student Privacy Pledge. And we're currently running a back to school special till the end of September. So please reach out to me if you're interested in setting up an account. And we are offering a free 30-day trial, as we know you will love Buncee. And we're approved as a MDK-12 vendor. We have daily webinars, tons of explainer videos to support, and our support is truly tremendous. So please reach out to me anytime if you have any questions or want to get your account set up. My email is Ryan, R-Y-A-N, at buncee.com, buncee.com. And additionally, I would like to thank all of you for the work that you're doing to support learners at this trying time for everyone. I'm looking forward to hearing from you and to learning from the upcoming speakers and sponsors.
Thank you, Ryan. And Ryan, you can send me a chat and I'll make sure that I get your email address out to everyone on the call.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's truly been fantastic. And we're excited to be a part of future learning councils as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, great. All right. So coming back to you, Timothy, this is really amazing work. Like I said, wow, the number of decisions you went through as a leader, huge. So I want to ask you this, like one of the things you mentioned was in the quarantine moment, there were some things that you found didn't work. We kind of want to know what those are because like you said, there's a patchwork quilt across America, hybrid, some are all remote, some are doing this, some are doing that. And people want to learn, it's embarrassing, but also especially from mistakes and things that didn't work. So any comments you want to make on that?
Sure. I think we looked, we learned right off the bat about, whether it's some expectations and some things that I think we assumed of each other that people were at certain levels, whether it was technology wise or access wise, that weren't necessarily the case. And that some of them were things that people weren't comfortable sharing or thought about sharing that we needed to make sure that we had a conversation around. And then looking at our schedule too was like, I think one of the big things was our schedule. We were a traditional 8-period day, 46-minute class length schedule. That's what we've been for, the school's been around for over 200 years now. So we've been that for the vast majority of them. So what we did is we shifted right away into a different model for length of class and number of classes in a day, because we saw that trying to meet, virtually right off the bat, 8 classes a day every day didn't allow for the time for students to be engaged in the class and for our educators to prepare and to put lessons together for those classes, because it was a big shift to take what you do in person and put it into a virtual setting. So time is one thing that everyone's always looking for more of, and that so trying to find ways to get more time. There's only 24 hours in a day, and people would be working for 27 hours to trying to get things done because of how dedicated they are. But we want to get that, maximize the time that they had to create things, but then also set those boundaries up, because that was the other piece too, was just boundaries. Working from home and working remotely, it was hard to see that start and end to the day. That was one thing that we learned quickly, is we've got to do something better to support each other on that end.
Yeah, but I've even had people say that a lot of the teachers wanted a second mobile phone because they were getting work calls basically from students, up till midnight. It was kind of wild. So they need to be able to turn off once in a while. So what's interesting to me is that, Learning Council talks a lot about logistics and the mutation of the time-space structure. You're experiencing that, on steroids right now. Our thoughts are that the, consumer market obviously took off for selling learning things to parents everywhere when quarantines happen. So there's been a new national discovery mode of all learning things online to the tune of a jump up of $1 billion more in spending than ever before. So the exposure to the high quality digital courseware, the animation, the algorithmic inference, all that stuff has been happening, which we think is going to drive the mutation a little bit more. So this mutation that you're in the middle of is sort of mutating that structure of use of time and space. What are your, so like, for example, you're already talking about not having a full 8-hour day and how teachers can also engage with the remote. So you've entered this element of choice of on or off or where are you? A lot like the Hollywood schools have had to do, because, you know, they've got maybe young actresses who are like remote over in Australia filming. So they have to be able to manage this massive choice thing that's come their way, which we don't think is going to go away. What are your thoughts on how far this goes in terms of, you know, continuing to mutate into, you know, highly adapted choice structure?
I think we're doing things now that I would have said would have been on my, you know, on our 5-year plan of trying to make some changes and to do that this has forced us, like you said, it's, you know, put us here and now. I think there's a lot of things that are going to continue. But I say that with the sense of, like, I don't want to scare any of my educators and say, oh, the model we're in right now is what we're going to be in next year and in subsequent years, because for them, there's a burnout factor that I don't want to, you know, to have happen. And I think we're learning, and I think we can continue some aspects of these, but we'll be able to modify it in a different way that we'll be able to offer the, you know, the traditional in-person, because the vast majority of our students want to be here and they want to be here every day. So we'll be able to offer that model. But then that choice piece, I think, is going to be an important piece, because as many students that struggled in a remote setting, we had other students that just absolutely excelled, and that was they found their niche, and they wanted, and they did very well with it. So we want to make sure that we're still offering that for them when we come out of this here, so that they can have the successes.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. You know, the shy kid who never raised their hand before in class is all of a sudden, you know, blogging entire paragraphs online, you know. So
right.
It's a very interesting world. I think, you know, it's being mindful to watch what's happening is interesting. And you're probably also going to find that your house rooms, your little inside academy, where kids are sort of, you know, they're remote, but they're on campus. That's a model that we're talking a lot about, how the future is a fully personalized pathway. You're on campus and you're flighted out as needed to intersect with teachers and small group, whole group.
Yes.
So that's a logistics, that's an algorithmic logistics issue, 10 times more complicated than I've ever seen, but we're working on that, just so you know. There's so many of our Edu Jedi that are part of what's happening thought leadership wise is coming. Love to have you be part of that, because it looks like what you've done is manually auto cohort everybody. So you're halfway there. So I'm super proud of you, and I want to thank you so much for joining, because wow. And wow to all of your staff. Would you tell them big wow from National, you know, Learning Council and the whole Edu Jedi?
I definitely will. They've been very impressive, and it's a very dedicated and a great group to work with, and, you know, the success lies in them, and what we're able to do.
Yeah, you're very lucky. I have millions of more questions for you, but I gotta let you go.
Sure.
Feel free to stay on if you want. Just, you know, put us on mute. You know, put yourself on mute. We're gonna move on to our next lunch and learn. But again, Timothy, thank you. We're very, very grateful for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
In a school, there are many different people working to ensure student success. Students, teachers, and administrators all have unique needs and may use a variety of tools to creatively achieve their learning goals. But it can be overwhelming for students and teachers to juggle multiple tools, not to mention costly. More tools also means more class time students and teachers spend learning another tool. and less time actually learning. But what if many of your school's needs could be met by just one tool? Buncee is an all-in-one content creation and communication tool that meets the needs of everyone in your school. Buncee is fun and easy to use. Students from kindergarten to college have the power to choose how they want to represent their learning. When they're exercising their creativity, students are confident, involved, and engaged, and what they learn will stay with them long after they leave school. With our easy-to-use templates, teachers can easily create engaging lessons, presentations, and activities. Buncee also offers educators the creative flexibility to personalize instruction, helping teachers to reach all types of learners. Administrators can build their school's voice with Buncee, quickly create newsletters, reports, and more, then share with the push of a button. Buncee makes it easy to support your students by strengthening your whole school community. It takes a lot of people in a school to encourage student success, but it only takes one tool. Buncee, one tool, endless possibilities.